After watching the Odyssey, I started wondering, why did the ancient Greeks create so many myths? One scene that really stayed with me was Odysseus facing the monster. The creature is much stronger than him, but Odysseus doesn't try to fight it head-on. Instead, he thinks about how to escape. He uses the sheep, attacks the monster's eye with fire, and even provokes it before escaping. This shows what makes Odysseus different. He isn't famous because he is the strongest hero. He is famous because he is a strategist. His greatest weapon is his intelligence, just like in the famous story of the Trojan horse. And then there is the lotus in the movie. A woman gives Odysseus a lotus that makes him forget his painful memories. At first, forgetting sounds wonderful. Who wouldn't want to forget war, fear, and suffering? But the danger is that he doesn't just forget his pain. He begins to forget his home, his family, and eventually who he is. The interesting thing is that this isn't a real effect of ordinary lotus tea. We don't even know for certain whether Homer's lotus was the same plant. We call lotus today, so the lotus is better understood as a symbol of forgetting, and that makes the story much deeper. Odysseus's greatest goal is to return home. So perhaps the most dangerous enemy isn't always a monster. Sometimes it is the temptation to simply forget where you belong. This also made me understand something about Greek mythology. The Greek gods are incredibly human. Zeus has desires. Hera gets jealous. Poseidon gets angry. Athena represents wisdom. The gods love, fight, become jealous, and take revenge. Why? Maybe the Greeks weren't really telling stories about gods. Maybe they were using gods, heroes, and monsters to talk about human beings. They used the gods to explain nature, prophecies to explore fate, and heroes to explore human choices. And humans aren't completely in control. The gods interfere. Prophecies reveal possible futures, and fate seems to exist beyond human decisions. So the story asks an interesting question. Are we really choosing our own path? Or are we moving within a destiny that has already been written? But my favorite part comes near the end. When Odysseus faces Poseidon, he doesn't try to control everything anymore. He takes the blows and eventually tells him, go. Then he survives the storm and finally reaches home. I love the contrast. At the beginning, Odysseus uses his intelligence to escape something stronger than himself. At the end, he faces something he cannot control and simply lets it pass. And finally, he reaches the place he wanted to return to all along. So I came back to my original question. Why did the ancient Greeks create so many myths? Maybe because they weren't simply telling stories about gods. Maybe they were telling stories about themselves, about fear, desire, jealousy, love, suffering, intelligence, fate, and the desire to go home. Thousands of years have passed, but those feelings haven't changed. Maybe that's why we still watch.